in the house. Let's go! Step inside the ring where the legends were made. Independent warriors never looking for fame. Rudeboy swinging, Huck calling the shots. Two lifers of the business with the stories that rock. From the sheet breaking heat in the Motor City. Bobo Brazil dropped the hammer, never pretty. Jerry Lawler on the mic, Dusty Rhodes with the soul. Gino Hernandez with that shine and that gold. This is wrestling real talk, no gimmicks, no lies. Real stories from real champions through real lives. Old school, new school, every lane, every block. Detroit wrestling forever, wrestling real talk. From the territories down to today's indie scene. Blood, sweat stories, the things fans never see. Icons, outlaws, legends who never quit. If you lived it or you loved it, this song is for it. Rudeboy, A.T. Huck, independent legends, y'all already know. Wrestling real talk, where the truth hits hard. Let's go!
The legends were real. The stories were wilder. And now it's time to talk about it. This is Wrestling Real Talk. And now your hosts, A.T. Huck and Rudeboy.
Wrestling Real Talk fans, man, we're back right here. You know what we're doing, man. We're talking wrestling. That's what we do, man. I'm Rudy, that's Huck. And you know what, man? We are just talking wrestling, and we're going to keep it as real as we can. Most certainly, we always want to keep it real right here for you, the fans. And I want to tell you, you know, like I mentioned on the last episode, you know, I had been under the weather, and I had been watching a lot of YouTube and a lot of wrestling on YouTube. But that's not all the content that I was watching, man. I mean, there are, man, our lives are on YouTube, Huck.
Yeah, it is, man. I do a lot of that surfing too, man. And, man, I go back and watch things on the 60s and 70s and 80s. And, man, it's just all documented.
It blows my mind because I can think of anything in my lifetime, a song, a movie, whatever.
And you can kind of place yourself.
Exactly. And I can go to YouTube, the almighty YouTube, by the way. I can go to YouTube and I can punch in said, I don't know, the Soupy Sales Show. And there it is.
There it is.
Oh, my goodness, man. I can't help to think what my father would have thought, because my father was such a movie buff and stuff like that. Like at the push of a button, he could watch any movie he wanted.
Just put in the search engine whatever you want.
Yes.
And, you know, sometimes you might have to pay for it. It's there.
Yes.
It's definitely there.
100%.
Some of them, they come up and they're on Hulu or Tubi or something like that, and absolutely free.
100%. 100%. Excuse me. So I've discovered my love for Canadian music.
Canadian music, specifically Canadian music.
Canadian rock music. Like I was, you know, I just let YouTube play one day, and I was cleaning up, and, you know, I'm straightening up, and next thing you know, I'm like, man, that's a good song. I'd never heard it before in my life. And I go over and I look, and it's a Canadian playlist someone made of Canadian rock classics or whatever. So I started listening. I was like, man, this is really good. And then there were a lot of stuff that we're familiar with, you know, the Guess Who and Bachman Turner Overdrive and, you know, that type of stuff. But then there were just some groups where I were like, wow, this is actually pretty damn good. And long story short, you know, when you're feeling under the weather and you're watching something like YouTube, you discover crazy shit like that, you know, and then, you know, again, I used to watch the news.
Yeah, man, I hate that. I wish I'm stuck on the news.
Now I don't watch the news. I watch YouTube news. That's where I get my news.
Right. That's what but I watch it way too much. I need to watch something else.
Oh, good Lord. Me too, man. Me too. I mean, if look, man, just already put out the unedited version of the Epstein files already, so I can stop hearing about this shit.
Sick of hearing about it. You know, and my thing is,
and that's what he wants us to say. I'm sick of hearing about it. Let it go.
Well, I'm not saying let it go.
Right, me neither.
I'm not saying
by the
let
way,
it go,
me
but
neither.
it's just, you know, my thing is, I don't think anything's going to happen.
Unfortunately, I don't
hate
either.
to say that, you know, because the man was convicted 36 times already. If that number's wrong, it's 30-something times.
34.
Already.
Yes.
Already. For heinous crimes.
And
they were proven.
Spent how many days in jail?
And, you know, and I'm not defending him at all, but just because your name appears in the files doesn't mean you're guilty of anything.
Oh, 100%.
However, his name appeared in there a whole lot.
I mean, over
not just a couple,
million times.
That's crazy. And who keeps records like that anyway? Oh, my God.
Obviously, somebody
He must have had a plan.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And didn't fulfill it or something.
Exactly.
Because that's a whole, millions of files.
But
he never got to fulfill it.
I want to get off of the Epstein
me
stuff
too. I
and
do
all
not
of
even
that
want
stuff.
to talk about it.
But what I did want to say was, like you said, man, you know, I get my news from YouTube, and then, you know, I used to watch all of the shows, the late night shows, you know, Jimmy Kimmel's and all that. Now the stuff that I want to watch, I watch. I watch the monologue, and then if there's an interview that I think I'd like to watch, I'll watch that part.
Right.
But
you
I
don't have to
gotta
sit
watch
through the whole show.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
I'm like that with Saturday Night Live.
Me too.
Like I want to see news update. You know, with Colin Jost.
Michael Che.
And Michael Che.
They're the best besides me and you. I mean, real talk. Except for when they, the best is when they do the racist, jokes
they write each other's
on
things.
Christmas.
Yeah, they write it for each other.
Yes, I love
it's
it.
Hilarious.
I love it. But, excuse me. That's one of the things about, the last Saturday Night Live that I watched in its entirety, I told you about a couple weeks ago, was the Cardi B episode. And by the way, man, what a talent Cardi B is.
I have to watch it.
Man.
I haven't seen it yet.
She is so damn talented, man, and funny, and her timing was perfect. And, you know, I'm not one of these, I mean, of course she's attractive and all that stuff, but I'm not one of these guys that go gaga over that.
You didn't notice it, huh?
Right. I mean, she's hot. She's hot. But, I mean, I'm not, you know, she's also as old as my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I keep that into consideration, too, as a male. And, by the way, someone who is spoken for. But anyways, but what a freaking talent, man. She is, and again, I'm not a big Cardi B fan or anything like that.
Oh, you know I love some WAP.
Oh, I know you do.
But let's not go
but
there.
who doesn't? But who doesn't?
There's some hoes in this house. There's some hoes in this house.
Hey, send the cards and letters to him. Okay. Anyways. Back to, Saturday Night Live, great show. And I did watch it in its entirety, and she was a musical guest too. And again, I'm not a big fan of her music, but she turned it out. Kudos to Saturday Night Live, YouTube, all that stuff. Back to Wrestling Real Talk, where we actually have a question that was posed to me. And it was posed to me by a young wrestler. And he said, Rudeboy, you know, this promoter is asking me to fly myself in. I've never worked for him before. He asked me to fly myself in from Detroit to Memphis, Tennessee, and then he would reimburse his tickets and he would reimburse everything. Everything would be reimbursed on top of his pay. And he said, I never met him face to face. We've had encounters online and, we've talked for a month or whatever. And he said, and I'm feeling uneasy about it.
As he should.
Absolutely. I said, bro, every red flag that you just said, you just answered your own question.
No,
man.
not just off his word.
Right.
If he drew up paperwork, a contract stating this, that you will be reimbursed, maybe, if it's a contract.
Well, one of the arguments were, and the promoter said, look, you have the text messages that I'm telling you I will do this. No. And that should hold up in a court of law. Now, I've watched enough Judge Judy, and I've watched enough of my baby Judge Milian on People's Court to know that those text messages do stand up in the court of law.
They do stand up?
They do, indeed. Indeed,
but you know what? Who wants to go through all that shit?
It's true. It's true. It's like,
excuse me if I use profanity.
Well, who gives a shit? That's what we do here. This is wrestling real talk. I mean, what? Sorry that we smoked a blunt before we got on the air either, too, Thank you, Bobby Rocks. Thank you, Carlito Hill.
Thank you.
Yes. Anyways, but yeah, I told him, I says, man, I don't know, man. I wouldn't do it. Me personally, I wouldn't do it. If he's really that much interested in you and he's got said money to reimburse you, then
I mean, I don't see the point,
right,
in doing that, because if he reached out to the promoter, but if the promoter reached out to him, say, I want to use you, but fly yourself in, no.
Right.
No, I mean, if you can't hop in a car, or if the promoter's not paying you to fly in and paying for your flight, I don't see doing it.
Have you flown yourself into anywhere? ECW, you did.
I did, but under the assumption that I was getting paid back. Mm-hmm. And I didn't get paid back.
You did not?
I did not.
Mm-mm. Paul Heyman paid this man his money.
It's like, Huck, are you... And this is real talk. That was many years ago.
Yeah.
Huck, can you be in Florida? I say, hey, I have to fly in. Oh, we'll take care of your ticket. Like they needed me that night. And then I get there and there are 3 or 4 other referees.
Oh, wow.
And they kind of blow off.
Right.
And I was like, hey, I thought you needed me so bad. I flew in, never got paid for the ticket.
Oh, my goodness, man. Oh, man.
So that's why I say, but, when I did drive, it was me and a bunch of other people in the car. I never just drove by myself.
Right.
That type of thing. But just that one time I flew in and didn't get reimbursed.
Okay. Not bad in almost 40 years.
Yeah.
Not too bad.
But that's specifically for ECW.
Right.
So with this guy, and it's an indie promoter.
Right.
On top of that.
Right. On top of that.
This is ECW, supposed to be one of the top 3 in the country.
Exactly. I mean, and at the time, I guess, Sonny and Candido were
they put a lot of that bill, man. I mean, they lost things.
Yeah, they're home.
Yeah, they're home. And, footing the bill for ECW. Tommy, I hate to say it, brother, Tommy Dreamer, Taz, so many guys really lost money. They were really dedicated to that promotion. And they wanted to see it succeed. But man, a lot of them really took, a big hit.
All of that whole team was dedicated to the promotion. Sabu and Van Dam and Fonzie. And I mean,
they really helped build that brand. Those ECW originals.
And let me also say this, that they also changed the face of wrestling forever. They really did. They brought a hardcore element to wrestling that wasn't there at the time. It was all hokey and it was all goofy.
Right. It was a serious. That's what attracted me to it. It was closer to what I knew growing up.
No doubt.
As far as the intensity and the realism, that ECW, embodied. I'll say that.
Exactly.
They embodied it. And man, the intensity of the Sabu and and all their matches weren't wild and crazy hardcore matches.
No,
a lot of people
they
think
were
that it was all
competitive.
blood. I would be on shows where there were no blood, and no weapons.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people for some reason think ECW, that's what it was about. It was more the feeling, the vibe, the way they portrayed themselves in the ring.
It was
made
happening.
it hardcore.
Right. And what I loved about it was because when we would go visit Violent J and I, we would drive up from Detroit to Philly. And we would go every other week and go check it out for at least a couple months. And it was a happening.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it wasn't just a wrestling show, man. Everyone knew each other. Everyone was partying together. Everyone was in the parking lot beforehand, having a tailgate party.
Oh, it was great.
And talking shit about the wrestlers. And it was a great time. And, man, a great time to just step back and be a fan.
Right.
It felt good doing that. And I'll never forget going into that arena and how hot it was because it was in summer and man, but it didn't matter how hot it was because it was going to be hot anyway because the action was wild.
Walk into the arena and, broken glass on the ground. Right. It was in a rough area.
Dude, it really was.
It was just crazy, man, because we get people to come to a rough area in Detroit.
Oh, my God.
People, aren't like that. They were dedicated in Philly to ECW.
Absolutely, and dedication from fans that to this day still stand by ECW as one of the greatest promotions of all time. And I can't argue that they are are they the greatest? No, I'd say that handle belongs to WWF. I do.
Well, you know what? For me, ECW brought the territory feel back to me, when they were running.
Agreed.
I knew they weren't big like the WWF and WCW at the time, but man, they spread throughout the country. They spread throughout the world.
Yes.
From that little bingo hall in Philadelphia.
It's true.
And that was the main place.
Yes.
Then they did start traveling later. But man, the impact that it had.
Absolutely.
And the stars, and it still felt like old school wrestling to me, even though it had a harder edge to it.
See, and the thing was, I was such a champion for ECW that I wanted to see them succeed. I've told my friends and I told my brothers and I told, and I sold it to everybody, man. This is it. This is it. This is great wrestling. You're going to love it. I turned a lot of fans onto it, by the way. But once they hit that era, because I wanted them to go big. I wanted pay-per-views from them. I wanted them on national television. And then when all of that happened, it sucked.
Well, it got too big.
Right.
And
it got watered
too
down
fast. Maybe, going to pay-per-view like that. I don't know if they were ready for pay-per-view when they finally did.
Well, I think that they were ready for pay-per-view, but they most certainly weren't ready for mainstream television. Most certainly not. And when they did, and they had to make so many drastic changes from the ECW that I was
So you're
used
saying
to.
pay-per-view was fine, but not mainstream TV.
Exactly.
Their
because
TV deal wasn't.
The TV deal was, it wasn't bad. The TV deal was great. They were seen in millions of homes. However, everything had to be toned down, and that right there made ECW.
Yeah, see,
just
if you have to tone
wrestle,
it down, it's not the product that gained the popularity.
Right.
So pay-per-view, they could still do mostly what they did on pay-per-view because it was a select audience.
See,
but once it changed getting on national TV, I can see where you're saying, okay, it's not the same.
Exactly. Exactly.
Right. I could see that. And it could have stayed like that for a while,
right?
And maintained. I don't know if they could have maintained the pay-per-views without the TV deals, though.
All right, I'm going to ask you this off the top of your head real quick right now. ECW, you're in the locker room. Who's the coolest guy in the locker room? Say it.
The coolest guy in the locker room to me was Sabu.
Who's the biggest dick in the locker room? Say it.
Oh, that's between Bubba Ray and Tommy Dreamer.
Okay.
To me.
And who is the hottest in the room?
Ooh, the hottest in the room during that time was Sonny.
You're supposed to say A.T. Huck.
Oh, yeah, that goes without saying. And going to Sonny, she was, man, smoking to me back then.
Oh, yeah.
And had that sexiness to her.
Dude.
Back then, and that her attitude, and she was one of the boys, but by the end of the night, man, you had to drag her out.
Oh,
I hated seeing her like
man,
that. And I hate that she's in the situation that she's in now because she was so cool when we had her on Cruising the Barrio.
She was, and she was a really good friend of mine, and I don't understand. I mean, I do understand she's addicted to alcohol. I do understand it's an addiction. No one wakes up and says, you know what, I think I'm going to get fucked up every day for nothing.
Right.
By myself. Like, no one does that. People, it's an addiction that it's not called a choice, because if it was a choice, you'd just say, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, I'm going to chill today.
Exactly.
And then go out. Well, let's not.
But I'm also not advocating that she gets a pass because
going out driving like that.
She made that decision to do that. However, I would like to say this, that Sonny, Tammy will always be a friend of mine, and I'll always pray for her, and I'll always keep her in my thoughts and all that good stuff, because she really is a friend of mine.
I hope she comes out on the other side.
I hope she does too. I do.
And rehabilitated.
I really do
and
too.
Can enjoy a free life.
Man, at least just
at some point
have her happily ever after. She, like I said, she was one of the biggest stars in our business ever.
Right. Tragic tale.
Most certainly. If anyone needs to do a biopic, they need to do it on Sonny. I'm putting it out there. I'm speaking it into existence. Yes, I do believe in the laws of attraction. And if you say it, you speak it, and you believe it, it will happen. So hopefully we'll have that Sonny biopic produced by Rocks TV real soon.
Bobby's not. Right. He's not putting it over.
No, he don't care. He's like, oh man, they're still talking.
He's like, who?
Right.
We just messing with you, Bobby.
Anyways, so when you were with the ECW and all of this stuff is happening, you guys, I mean, everyone is talking about ECW. Now, at the same time, were you still running your promotion?
No. When I was left Michigan, I was, kind of. It was Midwest Championship Wrestling. Sweet Daddy Malcolm Monroe was the promoter, and I was, mainly the booker, and I did do a lot of other stuff, acquire buildings and print the tickets and the flyers. So I was a big part. I was probably, I'd say, second.
Right.
In command.
100%.
I never want to claim Midwest Championship Wrestling as being my own. Same with Insane Championship Wrestling. That was Sweet Daddy. But I continued to do what I was doing for Midwest.
But, like Midwest Championship, you said it's not your own, but it's ours because it's our home.
Right. But I didn't own it.
Right.
Like some people think that I owned it. It was Sweet Daddy.
Right, of course.
So I left Midwest to ECW. We had a little falling out, me, Malcolm, and DBA. And, I asked Sabu, hey, can I get to ECW? How can I get to ECW? And he was like, oh, well, see me in December. And this was like May or June, something like that. But then the following weekend, he called me up, hey, we're going to Philadelphia. Can you drive? So I drove. I had a van, and reintroduced me to Paul, and I pretty much had a job.
That's nice,
a week later. And I did come back to Midwest.
Oh, right.
But I didn't have my own promotion until I was completely done. I think my last time in ECW was 2000, and maybe that's when I started Insane the Insane Wrestling Federation
Right.
around that time.
So, and of course, all of that was inspired by ECW.
Of course.
You know,
Of course.
the wild
Even though that was
insanity.
always my
Dude,
feel
since
anyway.
the first day I met you.
That was my feel
Since
anyway. In
the first
1991, our program was
Yes.
hardcore wrestling.
Yes.
You know?
Yes, sir.
So I've always liked the harder, breaking tables. And Malcolm got mad. You remember we had a meeting.
Oh, my goodness. Yes,
And he
I
got mad
do.
because the
Yes.
tables were broken.
Oh, my gosh. Yes, I remember
And
that.
right. And that was the last show for about a year.
It was.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
Oh,
But,
my
you know,
goodness.
that was always I always liked the intensity, the harder hitting wrestling, the realism, the Bruiser Brodies, the Stan Hansons, the Wild Bull Currys, the Sheik, the Abdullah the Butchers. You know, those are my Maniac Mark Lewin. You know, I love those guys.
Okay, so this question was posed to me just recently.
Did we
and-
answer the original question?
What was the original
I don't
question?
remember, man. You're gonna have to tell me.
I forget.
But go
Oh
ahead.
no, we did. We told that fool, don't take that flight.
Oh, that's right. That's
Don't
right. The
let you-
flight. Yeah, man.
you-
Don't pay for.
right.
Don't spend your money
What, you
on a plane
crazy?
ticket for some possible carny promoter
Right.
to tell you verbally that they're going to pay you back, and your record is in the text. No.
Exactly.
No.
Exactly. By
right
the
out
way,
of contract.
your ass might get stuck in Memphis.
Right. They cancel the show. All kind of things could happen.
Exactly, man.
Don't put yourself in the hook like that.
Exactly.
There are other promotions to work.
But back to
with.
the question that was posed to me, and I've been asked this question a million times, and a million times it's always been consistent. However, my second and third have always changed, especially lately. But I was asked to name my top 3 wrestlers of all time. No,
wow.
Now, not just by drawing power, not just by promo, not just by ability, but by all the combo.
Mm.
Who was the best that you think?
So this isn't
This
based
is
on just opinion.
but it's
we have
3.
to put fact in there.
But it's 3. It's 3 names, and you got I'd like you to list them in the top 3, 3, 2, and 1.
But let
Number
me
1.
clarify this again. This isn't just my favorite. This is based on fact. If we're putting those factors in there by
Well-
drawing power, that type of thing. That's not necessarily who
Well-
somebody might necessarily like.
Yeah, but
So-
my point is, Huck, is that when you're thinking of your top 3, don't think of Billy Braxton as number 3.
No, of course not. That would be unrealistic. That would be
You
unrealistic.
dig what I'm saying?
But I think some of my top 3 wrestlers of all time may not have been the top money makers.
No, of course not.
You know,
but,
so that's what I'm saying.
But
You know,
but have they made an impact on the business or
Impact on
in
the business.
yourself personally?
Mhm.
Because I'm gonna tell you what, like my top 3 are 3 people that I most certainly admire, and
You give me the third one first.
my third that I think is one of the greatest, if not the greatest, and most certainly a top 3, Mr. Nick Bockwinkel.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he was classy. I thought he came in with swagger before swagger was
He was
a
classy.
thing.
He was classy.
Right.
Even though he was a rule breaker.
Yes.
You know what I mean? He didn't break the rules the same way as some wrestlers would break the rules, but he wasn't above stretching the rules.
And guess what? Are you listening to this? He was a promo master because he was intelligent.
Very articulate.
Yes.
Articulate.
Articulate.
Got to say the word
Yes.
right myself.
Mr. A.T. Huck. So there's my third.
That's your third. Oh man, this is difficult to me. You know, because I have more than 3,
Well,
and how I'm talking and thinking at the same time. You know, but if you want to go with top 3, God.
It's not a right or wrong question.
No, it's not. But I want to be as accurate as I can from how I feel.
I feel you.
And my three are really giving me a hard time because you have Terry Funk. Oh, my God. I love Terry Funk. Then you have Bruiser Brody. God, I love Bruiser Brody. You know, just their styles. But then you have, for me, also Randy Macho Man Savage.
Yes.
And I'm not even going to get to my number one because I think anybody who knows me knows who's number one's going to be.
Same with me.
So my three, like one of them are going to have to be eliminated. I'm going to have to put, damn it, 3 at Bruiser Brody.
Bruiser Brody.
Dang.
Frank Brody out of Detroit, Michigan.
Yes.
Frank,
I didn't grow up watching Bruiser Brody,
Right.
mind you.
Right.
He may have come to Detroit one time in the late 70s when I had fallen out of watching local wrestling as much. I never stopped, but just not every week. It came on every week, maybe a couple times a week.
Right.
So Bruiser Brody did come to Detroit, but I didn't see Bruiser Brody really until I went to Georgia. And he was, of course, on Georgia Championship Wrestling. But also, he was also coming from World Class at the time,
Yes.
which we got. So I got to see him on World Class
Yes.
and in Georgia. And kind of fell in love with Bruiser Brody. He was wild. He was crazy. Everything I liked about Detroit, I saw right there in front of me. He was like looking at a taller Pompero Firpo.
Yes.
You know, different, but he looked like Firpo. Had all the wild and crazy hair and just unhinged, and his promos were unhinged.
Yes.
It was just something that I'm drawn to that type of thing.
Of course.
So long and drawn out, but I say Bruiser Brody has to be number 3.
Number 3 for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, man. Bruiser Brody is one of those guys that, behind the scenes wasn't a very good guy to the promoters.
Oh, not at all.
To the boys.
I knew none of that. though.
However, who cares? When he was out there doing his
Why
job,
just 3? Go ahead.
he was amazing. He was amazing.
Yeah.
He really was.
He looked like he was kicking somebody's ass.
He was one of my favorites. Not one of my top 3, but he most certainly was one of my favorites. But I would like to introduce to you my number 2 all-time favorite. And he's a man who did it on his own, and he did it on his own terms, and he built his own territory to heights never before seen. And by the way, made every fucking superstar there is that came through his promotion. Of course, I'm talking about the king of Memphis, the king of wrestling, the one and only Jerry Lawler. Yes, I said it. Rudy Hill has stated number 2 of all time, Jerry the King Lawler.
And
Your
you know,
thoughts
and
on the king?
That's hard to argue. That's very hard to argue. You know, Jerry Lawler was the Hulk Hogan of Tennessee. You know, I'm not just going to say Memphis. You know, Tennessee, that entire territory, which probably went beyond the borders of Tennessee.
Kentucky.
Yeah, Kentucky, all of those areas around there.
Yeah.
And Jerry Lawler was the face of, what was the CWA at the time? He was the face of that company. Yeah, the company had been around before Jerry Lawler, you know, with the Fargos and the Fullers, you know, that type of thing. But Jerry Lawler took it to new heights and took it to a period in time in wrestling that people still talk about. They don't talk about the other periods in Mid-South wrestling besides the period of Jerry Lawler.
True.
You'll hear a little bit about Jackie Fargo.
Yep.
You know, but
Yep.
Jerry Lawler personified wrestling.
He did. And, what I loved about Jerry Lawler was he was a guy who did it on his terms, you know, and now, again, like you said, he was not the first to do it in Memphis or that whole area. Yeah. However, when he was given the ball, he ran with it, and he made touchdown after touchdown after touchdown. I mean, you know Huck, man. He was in there with the best of the
greatest
best.
of all time, a who's who in professional wrestling. even from our area, Bobo Brazil went down there and worked
Yes.
with Jerry Lawler. The Sheik did.
The Sheik.
Dick the Bruiser did.
Absolutely.
Bearcat Wright. He wrestled not just those names that we're familiar with, like Austin Idol and Randy Savage
Right.
and Nick Bockwinkel and Kurt Hennig. The list goes, Bill Dundee, the list goes on and on.
And by the way, one of the most creative guys in the business, along with the one and only Jerry Jarrett, rest in peace, one of the coolest guys I ever met in my life. Along with him, they created out of nowhere the Ugandan Giant.
Yes, created a lot of
Kamala.
talent,
They filmed that in his backyard.
Yeah, he was, what
Kamala.
was he, Sugar Boy Harris? Or
Yeah,
Sugar Bear Harris?
Sugar Bear Harris.
Yeah, and like you said, they were very creative in Memphis. Innovators. Even with music. The Freebirds are credited with coming out to their music, but I think they also used music in Memphis, not on a regular basis. But I know at one point Jerry Lawler came to the ring on a horse, maybe, and they played music as he came out. But I don't think he used that as his regular entrance music all the time.
I remember that. That was Jerry Lawler was wrestling. He did come out on a white stallion.
Yes.
And it was to the Rocky theme, but not the Gonna Fly Now theme. It was one of like the Conquest. Here it goes, man. It's about to go down and shit, man.
Exactly. And they made it seem like a big deal.
Exactly. And you know what? Also, Jerry Lawler is responsible for one of the greatest wrestling managers of all time, Mr. Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart,
That's
who
right.
was a part of one of Jerry Lawler's favorite teen bands, the Gentrys.
Yeah, I just heard the song the other day. I
Keep
can
on
never
Dancing.
I keep on dancing. Yeah, there you go.
I love it,
I
man.
heard that the other day and I popped.
Yes.
But yeah, introduced Jimmy Hart, and of course, the story with Andy Kaufman.
Andy Kaufman.
That garnered national attention.
Yes.
I watched
indeed.
them on the Late Show.
Yes, with David Letterman.
With David Letterman.
Yes.
I watched it in college. We were all in the dorm lobby. And we weren't like expecting it. It was just on. And called it from the beginning. And we were watching it, and he slapped him, and we were like, holy shit, So this had to be what, 80, 81, something
was
like
81,
that.
yes.
81, yeah, where
1981.
we saw that.
And
So I watched that happen live.
And it was crazy because Andy Kaufman was on top of the world on Taxi.
Oh yeah, with Taxi,
That
man.
was a
He was
number one
he used to
program.
appear on Saturday Night Live and do his little skits. They were all weird.
Right.
He did Elvis and
Mighty
Lock
Mouse.
Up. Yeah, Mighty Mouse. Oh, great. The next day, that's all we were doing was Mighty Mouse.
Mighty Mouse. Oh my
Here I come to save the day. And then his mouth wouldn't move with the
Right.
music,
That was great.
He just
man.
started dancing around on the empty spots.
Andy Kaufman, one
But
of
yeah,
a great
Memphis,
treasure.
they brought us that. But you know what else Memphis brought us that other promotions weren't doing as much? They did a lot of goofy stuff.
Yes,
in Memphis
it's
too.
true. It's
like
true.
they would have Frankenstein. They'd have these different monsters wrestling.
Yes. But you know what
cakes
else?
to the face and
You know what else that they brought back? That was away for a while because we got so watered down by WWF at the time. They brought back the hardcore style. I mean, empty arenas with Jerry and
they
Terry
did.
Funk
They did.
throwing
The stuff
down.
with him and Terry Funk. Man, that was early on too, though, when Terry Funk was wrestling there. And he hit Terry Funk in the eye with the stick or whatever.
Yes.
My eye! My eye! Look what he did to my eye!
Egg
Let's
sucking dog.
wrestle! It was great, man. But yeah, they had scaffold matches.
Yes, indeed.
All kind of
Yes,
crazy
yes.
stuff. And, so they had a wide variety. I like to be like Memphis.
On top
You
of
know?
that, Jerry the King Lawler, one of the great artists of all time, man. Like his artwork is amazing.
Yeah, he hand draw the covers for programs.
Yes,
and
indeed.
all
You,
types
you,
of
you know what
pictures.
I just found out recently? On the Iron Sheik's flag, Jerry Lawler told Sheiky baby, come here. He said, you know what looked nice, man, is a nice portrait of Ayatollah Khomeini. And then Sheik said, Bella, that would be nice. He said, can I do it? And Sheik said, okay, you're not going to mess the flag? He said, no, I won't mess your flag up. So every time that you seen that on TV, the Ayatollah on that flag was done by Jerry Lawler.
Oh,
man.
wow.
Yeah, that's pretty
I didn't
cool.
know that.
Man. Pretty
I've
cool.
seen that flag, yeah.
Jerry Lawler is my number 2 guy. How about you, guy?
Damn it for this question. Because I only get 3. But I'm going to have to go with, I'm going to have to say Ric Flair. I'm going to have to say the Nature Boy.
Wow.
And the reason I say that, because like I did mention Terry Funk.
Yes.
I love Terry Funk. I wish he could be number 2 in this conversation, but I only got 3. And I can't leave out Ric Flair, because Ric Flair for me is the first champion. This is one of the reasons. The first champion I followed and watched him go from Portland to Texas to Florida to the Carolinas, to Japan, to St. Louis, to Canada, to Korea, defending his World Heavyweight Championship.
Mm-hmm.
He defended it like a world champion, whereas in the WWE or WWF at the time,
Right.
rarely did they step out of their backyard.
Of course not. Of course not.
Same with Nick Bockwinkel. Nick Bockwinkel wrestled it pretty much in his territory. He ventured to Texas.
Yeah.
You know, Paul Bosch was kind of breaking some of the
He'd
rules
go up
for
to
the
Montreal
NWA.
a lot.
Yeah, but still, I couldn't say that I was able to follow Nick Bockwinkel's championship reign too much outside of the AWA.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Ric Flair, I watched him simultaneously wrestle in Texas against the Von Erichs.
Mm-hmm.
When I was in Georgia, I got to see him wrestle at that same time, during that same time period, against wrestlers like Tony Atlas and Stan Hansen at the Omni. And then we would get the programming from Florida,
Right.
where he's down there defending. And we also got Mid-Atlantic area,
Right.
where I got to see him defend against Wahoo McDaniel and other wrestlers from that area. So I got to follow his career and the way he carried himself as the world heavyweight champion, much like Nick Bockwinkel.
Absolutely.
But maybe Nick Bockwinkel's younger bad brother. You know what I mean?
I feel that.
The
I
one
feel
that liked to party too much.
Oh, boy,
Nick
did he like to
Bockwinkel was all
party.
about business.
Exactly.
But his younger brother, Ric Flair, was about the party, the limousine,
I
the
could
bright
see
lights.
that all day.
You know, the fur coats, the alligator shoes,
Yes,
the women.
indeed.
You know, Nick Bockwinkel didn't talk about that stuff.
Right.
He may have talked about his riches.
Of course.
He talked about that. Ric Flair would get in there and make anybody look like $1,000,000. He made Lex Luger. He made Sting, because I don't think they would have been the wrestlers that they were without Ric Flair.
Absolutely
The same with
not.
Nikita Koloff. He carried those guys to matches that they weren't really able to even do yet.
So Ric Flair's your number 2. Now let me put a couple comments on that about Ric Flair. If you were to ask Rudy Hill 25 years ago, maybe 20 years ago. 20 years ago. If you were to ask Rudy Hill who your favorite wrestler was, the greatest of all time, I'd most certainly Ric Flair would be in my top 5. 20 years later, after, multiple days, like you said, of spending time watching YouTube and watching this and that and everything, one thing that I found, Huck, which I really didn't pay attention to back in the day, that you got one match with Ric Flair.
You know,
and it's the Ric Flair match.
Later on, yes.
The flip
in the
over
later
the thing
years,
and
yes,
the,
but throughout his career, he didn't do that same match.
Him
and Ricky Steamboat had thousands of matches, and it was not the same. Look at his stuff from Mid-Atlantic; it is not the same.
Listen. Again, I'm playing the devil's advocate
Yeah.
here, just saying that, maybe that made him so great because he It was like Jello to him.
Right.
You know, you just
now he did some of the same spots in his matches, like his front face flop.
right.
You know, he wasn't always doing that, but that became one of the things that he did. But by the same token, people came to see him do that.
It's true.
You know what I mean?
It's true.
So you got something that's working for you.
Hey, like they said, man, they said to the Eagles, give them the greatest hits. That's what they want to hear. They want to hear.
I feel like
they want to hear Hotel California.
Yeah, if you don't play it, they go home mad.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
Just like Jake the Snake, I'd be disappointed if I went to see Jake and he didn't give somebody the DDT.
Yeah.
You know, or bring out his snake. You know, once he started using the snake, he didn't use the snake when he was, younger as Jake the Snake.
Right. Before he got to,
yeah, he didn't bring out a snake to Mid-South and Georgia.
He didn't need to.
In Florida, he didn't have the snake.
He didn't need to.
Yeah, but WWE was more gimmicky.
That worked for them.
Yeah, they probably could even sold stuffed snakes. I'm not sure if they did back then.
They may have.
Yeah, why not? Have a Damien. Your own Damien.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
No, it's not.
Cashing in.
But yeah, in Flair's later years, I think he did get descriptive of having the same match. But I've seen him have so many more matches that weren't.
Right.
If you YouTube it, we're a big advocate of YouTube. You can YouTube Ric Flair and Bruiser Brody. Oh my God. That was not the same match.
Right.
I've seen him wrestle Carlos Colon. So many wrestlers where it was just totally different than his usual matches.
I'm gonna have to go revisit some Ric Flair matches.
Yeah, revisit some of it and be a little diverse with it.
Like I said, him
and Nature Boy Buddy Rogers. Oh
Ric Flair. Like I said, I was always a big Flair fan. I was always, boom, 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 putting him over, and then later on, and of course, his out of the ring behavior to me was just like, oh man, what a bummer, man, because I did admire the man such in a way, but when someone, wait a minute now, let me get this out. When someone is who has nothing to lose at all says the truth, which I feel is the truth, Teddy Long says, man, Ric Flair used to throw the N-word to me all the time.
I'm talking about his body of work.
I am too. That's why I say, Huck, that it bums me out that his behavior outside of work was not, it's like, how you always hear, you never want to meet your heroes.
Exactly. Exactly. And, I think I've kind of stayed away from Ric Flair for that reason.
No shit.
Yeah. I've had the opportunity to meet him before, but I don't want to be disappointed.
I feel you.
So I think I've kind of stayed away from Ric Flair for those reasons.
Well, I can bet you, $1 million. I could bet you anything in the world that you and I have the same number one.
Oh, yeah. We might as well cut to the chase.
This man, of course, is a World War II veteran. He's from Lansing, Michigan. Once again, he went on to be one of the greatest professional wrestlers of all time. And, of course, these two historians that are sitting next to each other both agree he is the number one wrestler of all time. And we would like you to comment in the comments below and tell us, do you agree with us when we say the one and only Mr. Edward Farhad, the Sheik?
The Sheik. I'm glad you said the Sheik. The Sheik. Of course, we might as well just talk together. Man. You don't need to give me your reason. Nope. I don't need to give you mine. We'll just talk about the man.
Everyone knows us.
Right.
Everyone knows us. I mean, for Christ's sake, I have a giant mural of the man on my back.
And I have his mark carved in my forehead.
Exactly. and let me tell you something. Here was someone who, as a child, I was fascinated by. I couldn't believe this guy captivated all these people that my father would take me to go see, and I'm like, man, I admired him even though he was a villain. I was like, man, this guy is.
He
amazing.
was nothing like you had ever seen before on television.
Nothing.
Let's just be simple about it.
It was wild.
Right. You know, and my story, and you've heard it a million times, I was just flicking through channels.
Yes.
And he was the first thing I ever saw when I watched wrestling was the Sheik.
Wow.
And he wasn't in the ring. He was eating paper. And acting crazy, you know. And my sister, I said, what is this? You never saw wrestling before?
Wow.
To cut to the chase. And I was hooked because of the Sheik.
Yes.
You know, and you know, there's an age difference between us.
Yes.
So you saw the Sheik at a advanced age.
Yes.
Not as old as he was once we got in the business,
Right.
which was 10 years later.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? But I saw the Sheik 10 years before that.
Right.
And he was young and fast. And,
Right.
man, having long matches.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of people say, oh, his matches were 5 minutes. Not when I was a kid.
Right.
You know, they were longer, man. You know, and I saw him wrestle notoriously, and I keep repeating it, Louis Martinez to
For
almost
the
an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And just a wild, there was nobody like him. Even though we had, at that time, Wild Bull Curry. He had his own kind of wildness.
Right.
He was a different wild.
Right.
You know, Pampero Firpo came in. He was wild and crazy. Wild Bull Curry, Dick the Bulldog Brower. He was wild and crazy.
Who do you think, Huck?
But
you
the
know,
Sheik.
I was thinking this the other day when I was thinking about big time wrestling. Who do you think the Sheik and the Sheik should have brought in to work a program with that may have, helped out later on in the later years? You know, me personally, I was like, I thought him and Brody would have done some business like in the early 80s.
But here's what really should have happened.
Or 70s.
Here's what should have happened in the late 70s.
It's the late 70s, yeah.
Sheik should have dropped the title.
Indeed.
To Terry Funk
Okay.
at the time.
Okay.
Not so sure about Randy Savage. You know, he was just coming into his own.
Right.
You know, and doing his gimmick that carried him throughout his career. He was
Right.
just starting it. But maybe Terry Funk. They tried Mark Lewin, but I think maybe they should have given Terry Funk a run and teamed the Sheik and Abby up, because they were a hot tag team in 1979 and 1980.
Absolutely.
They put Japanese wrestling on the map.
Indeed.
The feud with the Funk brothers.
Indeed. If you fans have not seen that match, I advise you, please go to YouTube and punch up the Sheik and Abdullah the Butcher versus the Funks from Japan.
Right.
One of the greatest matches I've ever seen, and I watched it recently with Santana. And he was like, Dad, I can't believe how good this is, man.
Yeah, and they brought that same match to Kobo.
Exactly.
You know, they had
exactly.
that. But I would have, so we could keep the Sheik and do have him wrestle, maybe not full matches on his own if he wasn't, able to do that or wanting to do that. And Abdullah the Butcher could go in there, and they had great matches.
Yeah.
And roll with Terry Funk.
Right.
During that time.
So, I mean, look, we both knew Sheik, and we both knew Sheik had ego.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, that's why he did it till as long as he did do it.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that. However, it does kill your business when people say, all right, I know what's going to happen.
Yeah, for over a decade.
Exactly.
He did drop the title quite a bit for very short times, though.
Mm-hmm.
Very short times. It'll always come back to him.
Right.
But, we don't always know what was going on behind the scenes. As a matter of fact, we don't know.
I was just about to say
what was
that,
going
Huck,
on behind the scenes.
because the same formula that Sheik was trying to do, Lawler did in Memphis fine.
He did.
And drew money.
He did.
However, for some reason, it just didn't work that way for Sheik.
Well,
when he'd bring
for
in
one
talent
thing,
to beat and, get beat. And,
it's hard to say without knowing what was going on in the back.
Right.
Bobo had many reigns
Of
as
course.
U.S. champion.
Of course.
Johnny Valentine had
Johnny
his three.
Valentine, yes.
Firpo was champion. So the title
Wasn't
did
Kent champion?
Don Kent was champion for a good time,
Yeah.
a good period, and lost it to Gino Hernandez, who had a very short run and back on the Sheik.
Yes.
But we don't know the story there.
Right.
We don't know why Gino Hernandez left.
True.
Because
he never returned.
Yeah, he never returned.
And he was hot then.
He was hot and getting hot.
Yes.
So we don't know what transpired between the two, or if he was just only booked for that amount of time.
Right.
And who better to put it back on? Unless you, in retrospect, look back and say, okay, he's going to drop it to Terry.
Let me ask you this.
Austin Idol.
And he often gets made fun of and all of that stuff. But let me ask you this. Do you think Captain Ed George should have had a run with the belt?
No.
No, really?
He did have a belt.
I think he was loyal to. Of course, he'd be loyal to his father. So that he's not going anywhere, and everyone back then it was kayfabe that was his son.
Yeah, nobody knew that.
No one knew it, man, and
Well, I'm gonna
I always
ask you.
found it
I'm gonna ask
crazy.
you.
Why didn't Captain Ed George ever wrestle the Sheik?
I'm going to tell you. I'm going to ask you that question because that was during a period when I really had stopped.
Okay.
I didn't see a whole lot of Captain Ed George.
Yes.
During that time.
Yes.
So that was a time when you were watching?
I was invested.
You were invested.
Invested.
So did you buy him?
I did.
You did?
I did.
Mm-hmm.
I did. I said, man, this guy is, wow, man, he's a hero. He's all about, he's saying everything everyone wants to hear.
Right.
Was he a great wrestler? No, he wasn't. But back then, neither half the locker room was. Most of the guys were the shits.
Right.
However, they knew how to draw money and they knew what to do, But with him, he just had this thing about him where I was like, man, I bet you he could beat the Sheik. I bet you he could.
I think
because I seen him in some bloodbaths
against that, but the Sheik didn't want to do it.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, I seen him in some bloodbaths with Don Kent. Oh,
right.
my goodness,
Right.
man. So, yeah, I always wondered why he never had a shot with his father's title.
I don't know. I think, from listening to different people, I don't think he was very good.
Yeah.
Based on listening to different veterans that were around back then.
Well,
I haven't heard of anybody have a high opinion about his ring work.
I was, a lot of the boys were, and this was told to me by Terry Funk himself at the gathering of the Juggalos while we were waiting for a shuttle together with Dusty Rhodes. I asked him, I said, man, everybody gives Captain Ed George a hard time, and he was like, well, you know what? Most of the boys were just jealous because that was the old man's kid. He was the old man's kid, and they thought he was getting favoritism. And was he? He probably was, just like my old man did for me. That came out of the mouth of Terry Funk to Rudy Hill.
Right.
And that always stuck with me like, wow, man, maybe he wasn't as bad as people say, or maybe I was just a naive kid.
Now I'll tell you, when I watch I Like to Hurt People,
yeah,
I enjoy the clips that I saw of him.
Right.
But like I said, I don't remember him back then watching him.
Right.
I was in Georgia, and like I said, I stopped for a couple years maybe watching it regularly.
Yes.
However, I didn't really get to know him until I met him.
Right.
And sometimes he was cool and sometimes he wasn't.
Oh, he was a weirdo.
He was kind of, forgetful, forget that he even did anything that was inappropriate,
Dude, the spear chucker thing you told me.
I was standing right there, dude.
Would you
It was
please tell the
hilarious.
fans?
I think it was in Flint,
Michigan.
the IMA maybe?
IMA Arena, yes. He used to run there often.
Michigan, right.
Yeah.
And,
he had a nice draw there.
Right. I wasn't booked on the show, but I think Sabu or Yukon asked me if I could go up there, take them up there.
Okay.
So I drove with or drove him. I'm not sure if we were in my car or not. It doesn't matter. Yukon Braxton up there.
Okay.
And Monty Brown was there, and I had known Monty. Monty had worked for me.
Great
I think
guy.
maybe even at that point he had been on The Gathering, maybe.
Yes.
I think. But anyway, we're walking in, and, I think it was Monty's first time going, being on the show for Eddie.
Right.
So they're like walking with me, and there's Ed George, and he walks up to him. He doesn't say shit to me,
Right.
And he knows me.
Right.
Went straight up to Monty Brown and talking about, glad to have you here. And, I had this idea for you and this type of thing, and said, I want to call you the Spear Chucker. And me and Monty we just looked at each other like, what?
Oh my God.
Are you crazy? And it's like, Spear Chucker, and he didn't know it was wrong.
Right,
He
just
had
thought it was
no clue.
Oh my God.
No clue how stereotypical and racist that sounds to
right.
call a black dude,
man.
this jacked black
Right.
dude, the Spear Chucker,
Oh my God.
And Monty was like, no, that ain't happening. I think he said it in a respectful way. He didn't like walk away and not work for him or anything like that. We just knew that he was clueless about what he was saying.
Right.
And there was no harm. From his point, what he was saying.
One of the things that
how ridiculous.
one of the things that I gathered when I met Captain Ed or Eddie Farhead, one of the things that I gathered was, first off, this guy is an old school carny.
Yeah, very.
He's an old school carny, and he's trying to work a worker, and you can't do that with me. I don't give a fuck who you are. So he's going on and on, here's what I want you to do in the match, blah, 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 blah. Do you have a problem doing that? No, I don't have a problem doing that. Man, Dad would be proud of you. Dad would be. He would always throw that in there.
Yeah.
Man,
Get you going, huh?
You were one of Dad's favorite announcers besides Chuck Allen, which he knew Chuck Allen was my favorite announcer. So I was like, this guy's working me. Anyways, so I worked the matches for him. And let me tell you something. He was always a man of his word with the money he paid me.
Mm-hmm.
We never had a discrepancy about that. If he asked me to work with someone that I wasn't comfortable with, I would just simply ask him, hey, could you change that? And he did change a couple of them for me.
Mm-hmm.
So when I hear all these horror stories of this monster named Eddie Farhead Jr., I'm like, I never seen
I never
Eddie. I know
thought
he was
that either.
I know he
did.
Yeah,
he
I
did
know
some
he had
questionable promotional
right,
type
and
things.
I know he was. And I know he
a
was
lot of
he
internet stuff.
He was gonna do some dumb shit when he was gonna change Harlem Jackson into Sweet Daddy. That would have never flown anywhere.
Right.
Anywhere.
Right.
At all, Huck. And then when
his reasoning, he said that's, they created that name. That's what they said. They put that on Sweet Daddy Malcolm Monroe.
That might be true, but who cares, man? There's only one Sweet Daddy.
Look how long ago that was.
Who gives a fuck?
And he didn't create Sweet Daddy Siki.
Exactly. Thank you.
But here locally, if Harlem only worked in Texas or somewhere else like that and wasn't around here, whatever.
Right.
That's how I feel.
Exactly.
But here in Michigan, no, you're not calling him Sweet Daddy, nothing.
100%. Anyways, so we lost
track.
We lost track.
Start talking about Eddie Farhead.
Right. We're talking about
the Sheik.
The Sheik, and now we're talking about his son.
Right.
And you know what? Not only did he have a great son by the name of Eddie Farhead Jr., which he was a cool dude. His brother Tom was awesome, man.
Mm-hmm.
One of the coolest guys I ever met in my life. He always told the ring. And he was, I used to help that man when I was 12 years old haul that ring into Azteca Hall.
Oh my God!
I mean, and I was humping that ring, man, because you know how heavy some of those beams are and shit. But I was determined. And he always showed me nothing but love and respect. And God, I hate every day that those guys are all gone, man. I really do.
I went to Tom's garage in between here and Lansing, closer to Lansing.
Right.
And man, I went in there and I think he had a ring set up.
Whoa.
But along the walls he had all these magazines
No
with
shit.
the Sheik on each one of the magazine covers. Magazines I had never seen before, man. I wanted them so bad because that's when I was huge into getting wrestling magazines. But every cover of the Sheik.
Wow.
I wonder who has all of those now.
I wonder, man. You know, I
Rare
truly
magazines.
do. I truly do, you know, because Sheik, I'm sure he had so many, suits and, you know, the finest clothing designs and stuff. Whatever happened to all of that?
Those velvet jackets.
All them velvet jackets were bomb, man.
Yeah, that's why I used to watch him walk into the arena with Abdullah Farouk a few steps behind him. And the Sheik would have on one of those velvet-looking jackets, and sunglasses, and an ascot. You know? Man, and his shoes just shining. Pants
beaming.
with a crease could cut you with a crease on the front of his pants. I don't think people still crease their pants. I do sometimes. I do most of my pants.
So does Santana. Man.
He does. He likes creases. I like creases, man. I even crease my jeans.
So does Santana, man. He gets up before school and is ironing, man. I swear he is.
Yeah, it gotta be crispy, man.
I'm like, this fool.
The sleeves of my shirt used to have a crease going down the side. My pants in the front. Man, are you kidding?
Hey, man.
Still to this day. But yeah, man, the Sheik was a great influence, man. But let's get back on him, man. I remember, you know, I followed the Sheik too, but later because we didn't get TV from everywhere. But once I was able to, I got to see the Sheik wrestle in Japan, different matches, and in Hawaii, in Los Angeles, you know, and then I would see he would pop up in Georgia. He did a lot down in Texas with the Funks. You know, before and somebody put that, he, you know, feuded with Dory Funk and Terry Funk. And they said, well, he only wrestled him a few times in Detroit. No, he wrestled them in Texas.
Right.
And other places.
Oh, yeah.
You know, mainly Texas with Dory Funk Sr. You know, and then it went on to Dory and Terry. So the Sheik did feud with the Funks.
Yes.
You know, to
indeed.
clarify somebody's answer, you know, question about that.
Right.
Or they tried to tell me, oh, he didn't defend his title other places. Man, I seen the Sheik defended in like Omaha or something for the U.S. Championship.
Right.
You know, in Virginia.
Right.
You know, in Toronto.
Shit, always.
You know,
in
even
Toronto,
though the Toronto, I think it was still a different version of the U.S. title.
It was.
You know, even though it was still the Sheik.
Right.
You know, the way, I don't know why they didn't make it the same.
Right.
You know?
No doubt.
Yeah, maybe he dropped it up there and didn't drop it in Detroit. I'm not sure. He didn't lose for a long time in Toronto.
He was the epitome of a traveling champion. Right. He really was.
But let me step back a little bit. He lost more in Detroit than he did in Toronto.
Oh, no
when
doubt.
You think about
no
it.
doubt.
He held the title for a long 100 and something matches. Wow. Before he finally lost in Toronto. But in Detroit, within that time, he did lose several times. So maybe that's the distinction.
Let me tell you something. We could talk about the Sheik for days and days and days.
It's a good conversation, though, man. I like this.
I like it, too, but we got to revisit it because we are at the end of our rope right here. We're at the end of the show. We are most certainly going to revisit the Sheik and all of his great accolades. By the way, man, what a great top three from both of us.
Yeah, man. I wish I had three or four more.
You know, what I'd like to do is, what I'd like to say is, like you said, like for me personally, my list can change daily, though.
Well, we'll do this. Next time, let's just pick a wrestler and talk about it.
Let's do that.
Yeah, we'll do that.
It
doesn't necessarily have to be our favorite, but a particular wrestler that we like.
How about you, the fans, pick? And we will tell you all about and what we think of them, and we'll dissect their whole being. Right here, right in front of you on Wrestling Real Talk. This has been Wrestling Real Talk. I'm Rudy Hill. This is A.T. Huck. A.T. Huck, would you like to say any goodbyes, good riddance?
The next show we'll get a request to do Tom Zink or White Lightning Tim Horner. That'll be the request. But anyway,
Tom Zink's cool.
Anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. We had a good time. Actually, I enjoyed this episode. I get deep into the old school wrestling. That's my thing, and guys, don't think that I hate you, new wrestling. Go out there and do your thing. Wrestling is probably more popular than it's ever been right now. And we're two old grumpy guys. We're like those two old dudes in the Muppet stands. Just think of us like that. We don't mean no harm. We love all of y'all, man, and you're doing a great job. And thank you for tuning in to Wrestling Real Talk. Go check out Rock's TV for all the old classic footage. A lot of it from my VCR, from my VHS tape collection. Sitting back over the years, I couldn't miss wrestling. I had to tape it. I watched it over and over and over and over again. And luckily, I was able to retrieve quite a bit of my tapes after a flood. And now you can see them on Rock's TV.
On Throwdown Theater.
On Throwdown Theater on
YouTube.
Rock's TV on YouTube. And tune in next time. I hope you're enjoying the show. I know I am.
Thank you guys right now for joining us right here on Wrestling Real Talk, man. I want to thank you guys for always showing love and support to us. Remember, Sunday, March 22nd, International Big Time Wrestling returns to El Rey, Taqueria El Rey in Southwest Detroit with the return of Big Mama. Yes, she's coming back to town. We're going to give you all the lowdown on that coming up in the near future right here on Wrestling Real Talk. But once again, thank you guys so much for rolling with us, man. I tell you what, man, I must be one of the most blessed guys in the world, man. It's, when you wake up and you say, damn, today's a good day to be alive, man. I've been having those days lately a whole lot. And why? It's because of the love that I have. It is because of the friends and family and, just my lady and just being happy. And let me tell you something, man. Wrestling makes me happy. It brings happiness to me when I get to see, some of the young cats that are up and coming and guys that are going to take over this business. It makes me really happy. It's happy days, baby. Positivity all the way. So check this out. Thank you guys for being here. Thanks to Bobby Rocks for holding down the studio and holding down the fort right here at Throwdown Theater. Don't forget to check out throwdowntheater.com. We love you guys. And like I always say, man, don't take life for granted, man. Don't take it for granted. Those people that you love, you tell them right now, damn it, I love you. The people that you need to hold and hug them and hold them. Don't take life for granted. Because remember, it's all in the message. We're not here for a long time. We're here for a good time. Be good to one another. Always take care of one another. And always know that you are loved by the Almighty God above.
Peace.